I think that Norman Lewis is one of those people which museums are looking at and saying, how did we overlook him? How did we not know that he was part of this very essential conversation that was happening? When I look at Norman's work, I really think of like a great jazz man. I think of someone like Coltrane or Miles Davis, in that he was improvising, and that improvisational spirit is something that comes across in a lot of the abstract expressionist work. And so to eliminate sort of the African-American voice from mid-century art is to eliminate sort of some of the foundation of what it is.
Like, what if you eliminated Miles Davis?
If you eliminate Miles Davis, but that is that's the equivalent. It's like to take Norman Lewis is the equivalent of having Chet Baker without Charles Mingus. It just doesn't happen. I'm Lynn Nottage. I'm a playwright, educator, and art collector.
My name's Aaron Nottage, the younger brother of Lynn Nottage, right here. Here in New York, I've been a prosecutor in Kings County District Attorney's Office for over 25 years. And very, very excited to be here to join in conversation to talk about my parents' relationship with Norman Lewis, who we commonly refer to as Uncle Norman, and a beautiful piece of art that was hanging in our house for well over 30 years now.
My father was a civil servant, a social worker, but an art collector, and what I like to call a nexus person, the kind of person who connects people. I think he came to know Norman well because of the kind of intersections that he had in his life and the intersections that Norman had in his life. I think they began a relationship that went beyond a friendship. My father became an avid collector of Norman's work.
I kind of remember, Uncle Norman coming to the house and on dinner parties or things of that nature. I just remember he would always bring a baker's dozen of brownies. He was always so debonair. I always remember when he came over, he was impeccably dressed and just carried himself with a certain air that was kind of just like, you know what, I know he's a marvelous painter, but I just felt something was even greater.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he was a Renaissance man. He was not just merely interested in having a conversation about art, but he loved jazz, he loved books, and he also loved to be engaged with folks who enjoyed language. I mean, he was a raconteur, and he was funny, and he was witty, and he was also wicked. And when Norman was very ill, he told my father, I want to leave you a painting that's personal, and the painting that he left to my father was Evening Rhapsody. I think that Evening Rhapsody stands out in that he's exploring a color palette that I don't think he usually explores, which is bursts of orange and yellow and green, and it's somewhat unusual for Norman Lewis's work because he tends to work in brighter jewel tones.
Some of them were smaller, a lot of them were black and white, or really two-tone colors, and this, as I look at it now, I'm just astonished in terms of the beauty of it.
And I think that when you look at his work, you really feel sort of the collision of different kinds of music and art and sensibilities, which is what I think makes his art so beautiful. There was this kind of rebelliousness in the way in which he led his life, in that you can't just pigeonhole me. I'm going to follow my imagination wherever it goes, and one day his imagination could be, leading him towards some sort of classical record, or the next one it could be sort of putting Coltrane album on the turntable in an America that was still immensely racist, that was still under Jim Crow laws, which still didn't necessarily think that a black man could be an artist. And he said, I'm not going to put my face on the canvas. What I'm going to do is put my emotions and my feelings, which were complicated and probably filled with rage and anger and frustration, but also joy and beauty and love. And one of the things that I love about his work, and particularly a painting like Evening Rhapsody, is that you feel all of that turmoil sort of reaching towards something beautiful. You see all of those little tiny figurines that seem to be in perpetual motion, that are rising up and reaching toward that sunset, which is astonishingly beautiful.
Growing up in our household, watching, seeing art and seeing Evening Rhapsody, as a 12-year-old, the painting was black and white. As a 25-year-old, the painting becomes something much richer, a procession. As a 30, 40-year-old, it's very different in terms of the way you're interpreting. I think that's the beauty of abstract. That's the beauty of, his work. As I look at this shining there, it's like I'm seeing the bright light of my parents looking over that and just being incredibly proud of Uncle Norman, proud of themselves. They would be very proud to see their kids sitting next to each other, reminiscing and talking about their history with this painting, their history and passion for art, and their love of friends. So what does that painting conjure up? It's all of it. It's much more.
I think of that painting as being a conversation that I've had with Norman Lewis for 30 years, and now I'm passing that conversation on to someone else, and hopefully they will engage with the painting in the deep way that we did for many years.